Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we're going over a species of dinosaur from the early Cretaceous that has been discovered, as well as a large species of marine stingray. So, we're streaming on also both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. So, heading back to the Mesozoic or the time of the dinosaurs, from Sci News, new Ceratosaur species unearthed in Brazil. A new genus and species of toothless noasaurid ceratosaur has been identified from an exceptionally complete skeleton found in southern Brazil. Well, technically, the ceratosaurs in general, or ceratosauria, have existed on a wide variety of different continents throughout the Mesozoic era. Well, technically, starting in the early Jurassic, so pushing somewhere around 201 million years ago and existing until the very end of the Cretaceous, about 66 million years ago, with animals like I guess I could mention the theropod later on, but especially Machikosaurus from Madagascar. It's one of the smaller species, but it's probably reaching about 6 feet in length. This is a bit of a mystery considering it has a very ornithischian sort of a facial structure. Like this is almost like a species of ornithopod from later on to the Jurassic. Probably something like Dryosaurus or relatives of the Heterodontosaurs. Even the Thessalosauриans can be somewhat similar in structure to this animal, at least when it comes to the face and even the core. But the arms are rather distinct, and as well when it comes to the hind limbs, they're quite skinny. Very long ankle bones, or the metatarsals, so it's very likely a fast runner. The newly identified dinosaur species lived in what is now Brazil during the early Cretaceous epoch, between 125 and 100 million years ago. Okay, well, this is definitely a later species, considering um, if you're leaving out the late Cretaceous ceratosaurs, and also you had certain species in the Jurassic, like Ceratosaurus itself, named Berthosaura leopoldini. Oh, his name is Leopold. It had an estimated body length of 1 meter or 3.3 feet and might never have had teeth. Yeah, it's very odd for a ceratosaur. What is going on with this animal? Actually, even for ornithopods, is quite strange. Dinosaurs in general, most had teeth. Pretty much all that I'm familiar with. You could say different species of pterosaurs, um, even different species of like proto mammals, like back in the Triassic, didn't have teeth. Possibly even certain species of crocodilomorphs. But a dinosaur itself, that is very abnormal. Let's see what's going on here. The ancient creature might have been herbivorous or had at least omnivorous dietary preferences. Berthosaura leopoldini is the first toothless non-avian theropod known from Brazil.
Can you say that again?
Berthosaura leopoldini.
Sounds like it's Berthosaur, Leopold, and I.
Yeah, it does. Said senior author Dr. Alexander Kellner, a paleontologist at the Museo Nacional Universidad de Federal de Rio Negro, and his colleagues. Berthosaura leopoldini belongs to Noasauridae, a diverse family of Cretaceous theropod dinosaurs from the group Ceratosauridae. Ceratosaurus represents one of the most widespread and diverse clade of extinct theropods, and currently three main lineages are recognized within Ceratosauridae: Ceratosauridae, Abelisauridae, and Novosauridae. Yeah, sometimes, or maybe once, I might have mixed up the Abelisaurs with the Noasaurs. They are closely related, but the Abelisaurs don't belong to the Noasaurs. But maybe I'm confusing that with something else. But both the Abelisaurs, the Ceratosaurs, and the Noasaurs are very closely related to each other. The Carcharodontosaurs are a bit off on the theropod family tree, or at least of the Ava theropods, which are thriving at this point in the Cretaceous, like especially around 120 million years ago. They're doing quite well. Okay, I guess let's go or pull up another species of dinosaur, the Spinophorosaurus. So Spinophorosaurus. Did he pop up? Like a sauropod? Okay. So if this is who I might be thinking of, okay, he is one of these individuals. It's a bit of a mystery as to who specifically of the Macroninian lineage of sauropod dinosaurs this animal belongs to. He is one of the species of sauropods that does contain basically thagomizers like the stegosaurs.
Wait, new Thagamizers.
Oh no. There is not any evidence for this occurring on the sauropods at all. This is more of a stegosaur trait, and you could say somewhat maybe certain species of nodosaurs, depending on how you're looking at. An ankylosaur, there are longer, elongated spikes towards the front of their body, or at least the upper shoulder blade areas, and just along the upper vertebrae. But, for sauropods, this did not exist for any species. When looking at stegosaurs, maybe there would be like a distinct thagomizer just above the front shoulder blades. Not really seeing any around the hind limbs.
God, here's another one.
Yeah, this definitely there isn't a single species of ornithopod or really ornithischian in general that well,
And
that's
that's
not true with
what is that
ornithischians.
supposed to be?
Stegosaurs are. Um, some species of iguanodontid. Maybe I'm not familiar with any species of ornithopods that would have coexisted with Spinosaurus at the moment. But the animal was inhabiting China around 167 million years ago. So this animal is from the Jurassic. And it kind of shows that the sauropods went through a quick major evolutionary change during the first um, I'd say what 13 to 20 million years of their reign. So, also, we possibly might have evidence for there being robust or armored osteoderms around the core of the body. It's also showing them towards like the upper pelvis region above the hind legs. Oh yeah, so this animal is I think I might have said from China. He's from Niger. So over in southern Saharan Africa. So
And this is real.
yes, this is a complete skeleton, somewhat complete skeleton of the animal.
I just pulled it from the Smithsonian Magazine.
Yeah, it's I think it was discovered back in like the early 2000s by a team of Spanish and German paleontologists. So, um,
Hold on. Sogo Hotel said, "Is that horny dinosaur real?" Wait, which are you talking about? The
oh,
one that's the fake one that I put up? Wait,
um,
hold on. Wait, um, are you referencing that one?
this animal did not exist. And when it comes to the ornithopods in general, they did not contain any types of thagomizers. Armor on the sides of the body, it's possible. We have found certain
Whoa, whoa!
um,
You're not saying that's real?
no, 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 no. Like the long, like spikes. We don't have any evidence for spikes on the ornithopods. You had the earlier guandontids that had their distinct thumb spikes, but I wasn't including those.
No.
Um,
Yes, that's what the person thought was real.
yeah, this, yeah,
No, it
both
looks like
that.
that.
This is it's not a bad reconstruction of a Spinosaurus. The neck structure could possibly be slightly longer, but didn't necessarily have an extremely long neck compared to its body size. I'd say it was decent for a smaller species of sauropod from the early Jurassic. I mean, 167 million years ago, really mid Jurassic. It's, I guess you could say, was somewhat medium sized, but the sauropods are about to take a major step into size evolution. However, they're going to lose their thagomizers. It is interesting how these animals evolved um, simultaneous, somewhat mutations along with the stegosaurs at this point, because you already had stegosaurs roaming different parts of Asia, possibly in some instances North America, Europe, and Africa during the Jurassic at this point. And they also had their distinct thagomizers, but for Spinosaurus, it was a bit smaller compared to its body size. I don't know how long specifically these spikes are, but the animal itself could reach somewhere around 43 feet in length, or pushing about 13 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 8 tons. So For the time, it was definitely one of the larger medium-sized sauropods.
What's the thing standing behind it?
Probably a youngster. I think I don't see anybody else.
Eh,
Yeah, it's very possible that these anim these animals, considering they weren't like some of the larger species of sauropod that constantly had to find available vegetation to sustain themselves and keep them functioning, these animals could probably stick around the nests or not necessarily venture too far to obtain enough vegetation to make a living. But these animals did coexist with different species of the earlier avitheropods at the time. There were also different species of crocodilomorphs, but this animal was quite formidable. You just don't have it where the tail itself would present a formidable weapon against the different species of neotheropods in the region. But those thagomizers could probably pierce like different femur or thigh bones, the pelvis region, or even the skull of the different species of theropods that might have hunted it. Also, when it comes to the osteoderms, I'm noticing this with pretty much all of the Spinosaurus in these depictions. It's very possible we might have found preserved incidents of where these osteoderms might have pretty much stood like across the different neck, back vertebrae, and caudal vertebrae of the tail. So it's a decent reconstruction. Okay, let's head back to the article.
which is not what you're reading about.
No, we're going over a mysterious species of Ceratosaurian. It looks nothing like a Ceratosaur, at least looking at the head structure. It's more of like a Ceratosaur decided to identify as an ornithopod. So quite strange, or at least merge certain characteristics or mutations. In terms of morphology, made to
Christopher Ozavoskary, sadly, attempts to revive the animal through CPR were not successful. Oh, were successful? Were unsuccessful, sorry.
wait, you're talking about this Ceratosaurian who wasn't able to like resurrect its true or what it should look like, as in like a formidable little theropod from CPR.
He was talking about when something got killed and it wasn't able to be resurrected through CPR. I'm guessing.
Um, anyway, and so in terms of morphology, mid to large sized members of the Abelisauridae and Ceratosauridae are relatively better known than the gracile small body Noasaurids. Yeah, it's like animals such as the later Machikosaurus. There were other different species too. They, in many cases, they didn't have a very robust body structure. Some of them were a bit more heavily built than others. Even Machikosaurus it's not as lightly built as this new species, but it also had teeth, like a very distinct theropod look. This animal is odd. Most noasaurids consist primarily of fragmentary specimens with few exceptionally well preserved taxa restricted to the Malagasy species Machikosaurus knopfleri, the Tanzanian Elaphrosaurus bambergi, and Limusaurus inextricabilis from China. The well-preserved skeleton of Berthosaura leopoldini was found at a paleontological site named Cemiterio Pterosaurus quarry in Brazil's Paraná state.
She's
The Cemiterio dos Pterosaurus quarry is a very interesting locality that became famous for being the first pterosaur bone bed from Brazil. Wow, I didn't know that. In fact, I don't think I've heard of a pterosaur quarry, so this is new.
I think you need to say that whole thing 3 times real fast.
I think we're okay. Just showing two quite distinct species. I think it's referring to pterosaurs now. That was a bit confusing, or a bit of a jump. Okay, so although the presence of dinosaurs was known right from the beginning of the studies concerning the species from this site, the first dinosaur formally described was Versporosaurus paranaensis, based on several isolated or partially associated elements. Let's pull up Vespersaurus. It's not hitting me, at least at the moment. VESPERSAURUS. Saurus. Oh, he's another Ceratosaurian. Oh yeah, very distinct Ceratosaurian type of like overall structure. Small toes compared to their body size.
Not
Very
there.
hmm?
Not in this picture.
Yeah, they're definitely bigger. Definitely small arms though. That is odd with like a certain lineages of Ceratosaurians. Is that for some reason they decide to evolve very small forelimbs compared to their body size. This animal, at least it's not hitting me what it could be.
What are you
Um
talking about?
the well, that could be some early Cretaceous pterosaur on the right, but the one in the center that I cannot identify the Ceratosaurian.
It says it's a Vespis.
No, far too long of forelimbs compared to its
Oh,
body
it's
size.
it's,
Even the
uh,
legs seem a little too
I
robust.
didn't see this.
Mm. Oh, also the
It's
head.
AI.
Yeah, the head itself is far too Coelurosaur-like. The Ceratosaurians were not Coelurosaurs. They were their own distantly related clade of avitheropod dinosaurs. Yeah, it is interesting. It's almost like this lineage of noasaurs decided to stay in the Triassic when it came to their overall morphology, just their physique and stature. It almost looks like you're looking at certain proto dinosaurs, like Ephegia to a smaller extent, at least in my opinion. Ephegia does have its own distinct sort of physique, but this animal in some cases is very similar. I'd say the leg structure of Ephegia, they might have shorter legs compared to their body size, also being somewhat just more stocky. Yeah, and even the tooth structure, I think Ephegia has more of a beak, but it's also not a dinosaur. It's more of like a proto dinosaur. But this Vesperosaurus, I mean, it's definitely not bad.
Did you say it's supposed to
Um,
have more of a beak?
what when it comes to Ephegia, not Vesperosaurus. Vesperosaurus, these seem
I'm
like
not sure that is Vespasaurus. It doesn't actually say it. Hold on.
it says it here.
I didn't see that.
It could be a somewhat older reconstruction, but I can't tell exactly how old this model might be.
Wait a minute. I have something.
I liked one of the earlier drawings though. Whoa. Oh, okay. Yeah, it is interesting. They're almost like mononychids to an extent when it comes to their arm structure, but mononychids have very, I'd say, even more basal arms than just one or two claws in some instances. Also having a much longer and thinner or more narrow jaw structure compared to Vesperosaurus or many of the species of nosaurs in general.
I know he's twisted a little, but it looks like he's missing an arm.
It does. Also, I guess you could possibly compare it to like how small a Bellysaurid arms are compared to their body size. That is interesting. When you look at the, I guess this lineage of Ceratosaurians and Nosaurs, the Abelisaurs, they both have small arms compared to their body size. You look at many Ceratosaurs or certain lineages of Ceratosauridae, they have much longer arms compared to their body size. Now, there's also a group of theropod dinosaurs that would become much more numerous that would include the mononychids called the Avrosaurids, especially into the Cretaceous. But they, in some cases, had very long arms compared to their body size, and then even shorter compared to the Noasaurs, especially in mononychids. Okay, let's go back to the article. Let's scroll a bit down. Wow, that is definitely a very intact skeleton of the animal. I mean, yes, you have it where several bones are not intact with the skeleton, but I also wondering if some of these bones are belonging to other individual Berthosauri. So this is a bit of a mystery. Still looks good. Berthosaura leopoldini represents the most complete known noasaurid species from Brazil. It also represents the most complete non avian theropod from the Brazilian Cretaceous and preserves the most complete noasaurid ichthyal series known so far. Moreover, the new taxon exhibits many novel osteological features, uncommon in non-avian theropods and unprecedented even among South American ceratosaurs. I mean, yeah, this it's very odd. I am shocked though. Oh, here we go. These include not only toothless jaws, but also a premaxilla with cutting occlusal edge and a slightly downturned rostral tip. Yeah, it's basically describing like an orange small ornithopod beak or an elasmarian beak, like with what you see. Okay, I'd say even the smaller elasmarians like Zalmoxes from the Hatzek Basin of Lake Cretaceous, Romania and Hungary, Lianosora from early Cretaceous Australia or Antarctica have a bit more of like a straightforward facing beak, but this might be something that we see in certain Jurassic species. But it's not hitting me who specifically. It is very distinct. Also, slightly downturned tip. In fact, I'll scroll up real quick. What that is making me think of, yeah, it's very slight. But like species of birds today, like owls, eagles, hawks, falcons, vultures, all have this type of a characteristic, but it's much more exaggerated, or there's definitely a much longer hook. But it definitely indicates that this animal was likely a carnivore to an extent, at least in my opinion. It also seems to have a very small rib cage compared to its body size, which tends to indicate a more hyper carnivore sort of a lifestyle. Whereas you do have certain animals that can have somewhat wide guts, but also be very omnivorous, like bears, raccoons, gorillas, people. So um,
Don't bears munch on tons of vegetation, though?
they do. Yeah, I was mentioning that.
Like, do polar bears have the same gut size as, per se, a Kodiak?
No, Kodiaks have much larger guts compared to, or I don't know precisely how much. I'll have to take a look at that, but they do have larger guts compared to polar bears, considering vegetation is a much larger part of their diet. They don't eat a lot of meat in general. I mean, putting aside fish, which is technically animal protein, um, they're only occasionally going after other animals, like maybe deer, moose, or the introduced mountain goats or elk in certain regions in the Kodiak archipelago of Alaska. So let's see. Also, I mean, you can say like the Kamchatka giant brown bears of Russia. Oh, I can scroll down a little bit. Or should we bring up like another dinosaur? Maybe we should do that. Okay. Let's bring up Chindangosaurus. So Chang. Oh wait, Chuan. My bad. Chuan. So Don.
Wait, is there a G or not a G?
Chuan. Yeah, I think it's later. Yeah, it's later.
Okay.
Schwan. Okay, so Dongoceurus.
I think I misspelled that.
Should be a theropod dinosaur, carnivore. Yeah, mixed it up with I think a valid taxon. I'll have to check up later.
Wait, does it have wait,
Bit of a crest, possibly.
some do, some don't, but I'm trying to find a decent one.
Um, it might be a little bit of a debate as to how large those crests would be. Considering, like with Dilophosaurus, it's only so large in the specimen, but it was actually much taller in real life, especially as you add in tissue and extra keratin.
That's not my problem.
Same thing would occur with like Monolophosaurus, Cryolophosaurus. Um, which you could say, actually, this animal has been compared to Monolophosaurus in certain studies. Now, it was constantly, I think, moved back and forth around 3 to 4 times from different theropod lineages. At one point, I believe it was somewhat put in with the Megalosauroideae lineage of theropod dinosaurs, but then it was taken out. It might have been put in with like Monolophosaurus as a very close relative. But it
Yes or no?
whoa, no, that's not him. That's like a, the other one was, that's him. But this animal was somewhere between, I think 4 to well, 13 to 17 feet in length. They're pushing somewhere around 4 to 5.5 meters, and probably only weighed somewhere around 2 to 300 pounds, or maybe somewhere between 90 to 130 kilograms. So it was likely feeding on certain species of earlier sauropod dinosaurs, or probably like smaller individuals. So it was inhabiting northern China around 168 million years ago.
There's almost nothing on him.
Oh, well, I guess that's okay. It's a bit of a mysterious member of the Tetaneron lineage of theropods, which the Tetanerons would consist of a wide variety of different lineages of sauropods, including not sauropods, theropods, like the megalosaurs, the allosaurs, the coelurosaurs, as well as like the dilophosaurs too.
Did you want someone else?
Yeah, I guess the um Abrosaurus, so Abrosaurus. Yeah, it's not him. Should look more like a sauropod.
I just I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, like almost like a Chimerasauromorph. Okay, so this animal, though it is not a Chimerasauromorph, it is its own mysterious lineage of macroninian sauropods, but it does have a bit of a Chimerasauromorph sort of a physique to it. I believe it is possibly also from China, somewhere around 165 million years ago. So this is close to the time that some of the earliest species of tyrannosaurs, ceratopsians, and even ankylosaurs are about to evolve. Um, yeah, I think these are really good reconstructions. This animal is probably somewhere around 35 to 45 feet in length, or pushing somewhere between 11 to 14 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 6 to 8 tons. So it was one of the smaller species, even for the time. This is around the time when we also see much larger species of macroninian sauropod dinosaurs start to evolve. And this is close to the time when different species of diplodocids are also increasing in size. The brachiosaurs also might be on their way too. But this animal, I believe, was somewhere between 12 to 16 feet in height, or pushing somewhere around 3.5 to around 5 meters. Okay. Um, let's see. Okay. So this indicates that Berthosaura leopoldini unlikely had the same diet as other ceratosaurs, most being regarded as carnivorous. In summary, Berthosaura leopoldini is a nearly complete and well-preserved noosaurid that possesses unique anatomical features among ceratosaurs, particularly the endotulus rostrum. In addition, it comprises a second report of toothlessness among non-Silurian theropods, alongside the Chinese noosaurid Limusaurus inextricabilis. There are different species of animals in general, especially as we look at the dicynodonts or the protomammals, as well as certain crocodilomorphs, or even you could say birds today, earlier in the Cenozoic, with like the terror birds, that were herbivorous, and then there are certain species that seem to be carnivorous but not having any teeth. So, Berthosaura leopoldini reveals that small body and divergence in feeding habits may have occurred together across the earlier Noahsaurid evolutionary history. So, you could say, even with other paleontologists at the moment, is a bit of a mystery as to what this animal might have consumed. We do have a lot of the body, though, but is quite conjoined with each other. I mean, also possibly seems that like animals such as Mashikasaurus probably were around the same size as this specific earlier uncle to it. Considering Mashikasaurus is pushing somewhere around 5 to 6 feet in length, or maybe somewhere around 1.5 to 1.8 meters. Okay, so heading forward into the Cenozoic era. From news.mongabay.com, giant stingray caught in Cambodia is world's largest freshwater fish. Yes, stingrays are members of the fish family. These are essentially sharks, venomous sharks. And there he is.
Wait, stingrays are okay.
So, there are around 5 to 10 different species of stingray that are known as ear lion, which means that they can tolerate both fresh and salt water. But they're not necessarily diadromeous species, which means an animal that's a diadromeous species would be like different species of Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean salmon. So, like pink salmon, sockeye salmon, Atlantic salmon. They must travel from like saltwater, like ocean and sea areas up into freshwater rivers in order to spawn. So, as well as like when they're frying the freshwater rivers and then they head out to the ocean slightly later in life. These animals don't necessarily make those migrations, they can just handle both types of water. So, let's see what's going on. The largest freshwater fish ever recorded was captured in the Mekong River last week by a fisher collaborating with researchers to document the river's biodiversity in northern Cambodia. The 4 meter, 13-foot endangered giant freshwater stingray, Urogymnus polylepis, was hauled from the river on June 13th before being measured and released back into the wild, tipping the scales at nearly 300 kilograms or 661 pounds. Whoa, he is heavy. The Leviathan Ray surpasses the previous record holder, a 293 kilogram or 646-pound Mekong giant catfish. Oh wow, that's actually pretty. That's pretty impressive. He passed the catfish. Cyanodon gigas or gigas, caught in Thailand in 2005. Experts say the find emphasizes what's at stake in the Mekong, a river that's facing a slew of development threats, including major hydropower dams that have altered the river's natural flow and exacerbated low river levels due to dry season droughts in recent years. This is an absolutely astonishing discovery and justifies efforts to better understand the mysteries surrounding this species and the incredible stretch of river where it lives. Zeb Hogan, a fish biologist and leader of the USAID funded Wonders of the Mekong project, said in a statement.
Except for stingrays will swim right up against the shoreline.
Um, I
What?
I was wondering why you were mentioning that.
Well, it talks about low rivers and the low water in it, and
Oh,
I was just stating that I've had them chase me down the shoreline.
yeah, it's true, but you also are talking about saltwater, not necessarily like fresh mud regions. And I think also the problem is, especially with freshwater in this instance, it's going to have a lower oxygen levels in this instance, so it might be more challenging for the stingray. Yeah, he's huge.
Oh my gosh.
The stingray was hooked in Stung Treng province, in a portion of the Mekong known for its diverse underwater habitats and rich potential to support species of both fisheries and conservation importance. The area, which features pools up to 80 meters or 260 feet deep, was last month the focus of an expedition led by the Wonders of the Mekong project in collaboration with the Cambodian Fisheries Administration, the Inland Fisheries Research and Development Institute, and international partners. As part of that expedition, a network of local fishers agreed to report any catches of giant and endangered fish to the project team for study and safe release. Prior to the latest record breaking find, a group of fishermen last month reeled in a 180 kilogram or 400-pound female giant stingray in the same stretch of river. Wow, we have giants lurking in this freshwater ecosystem. It's almost like a bit of the early Cretaceous or the early late Cretaceous to an extent in terms of the size of the freshwater life
That'd be
coming.
freaky to run across one of those.
Yeah, coming from the fish. You would say that the Spinosaurs of the Cretaceous would love this. They just probably nip off the tail. But yeah, they would be having a bit of a blast or a breakfast. I mean, you know what? I don't know what the nutritional content is for stingrays, so maybe it would be not enough for spinosaurs. These successful releases highlight this site as a stingray hotspot and illustrate the importance of partnerships with local communities. Chia Sila, program manager for Wonders of Mekong, said in a statement. Sounds like a menu item.
Stingray is a safe, lean protein that provides healthy omega 3 fatty acids and collagen.
Well, the question is how much though. But
However,
it's
because they are bottom dwellers, their meat can accumulate heavy metals like mercury and arsenic.
yeah, but they say that with a wide variety of fish these days. So other fish. Um. Okay, so we really don't know because there's a wide variety of fish that have omega threes and certain types of proteins. Said something else, but it varies depending on the specific zooplankton that these animals are also feeding on, which feed on well zooplankton, the liquid rich
Wait,
copepods.
as in ZOO?
Yeah, so these are essentially like different types of krill to an extent that also feed on the phytoplankton further down the food chain. And they also, when it comes to these copepods and you can even say krill, they create their own types of nutrients or minerals um, to a certain extent. I have to double check on that. So not all the like nutrients, minerals, chemical compounds you're going to find in like the copepods do you find in the phytoplankton that they feed on. And the same thing with the fish. They even change the amount of um, nutrients, minerals that the copepods have in themselves. They also create other types of um, possibly flavoids. There's a variety of things I'm leaving out. Oh, he's swimming. Whoa. Yeah, wow. I wonder how they caught him.
They just went underneath and picked them up.
Seems that way. He's a very delicate creature. Hmm. So, in addition to freshwater stingrays, scientists believe this part of the Mekong is a crucial dry season refuge for other megafish, including critically endangered Mekong giant catfish and giant barb, Catlocarpio siamensis. The area is also pivotal for the food security and livelihoods of communities in Cambodia and neighboring countries. Fish spawning grounds and migration corridors make this stretch of the river a natural powerhouse of fish production, generating up to 200 billion fish annually. Whoa, okay. That might be consisting of, like, smaller fish species because there's only so many of the larger species you can have. Um,
200 billion.
yeah, yeah, that's I'm curious. According to Hogan, we now know that this area is critically important. Not only is it home to the world's largest freshwater fish. It is also the only place on Earth where a unique assortment of incredibly vulnerable aquatic megafauna from our Wadi dolphin. Yeah, I was wondering if there was like a saltwater, freshwater dolphin in the region. I think it's saltwater, freshwater. To giant soft-shelled turtles to stingray occur together. Categorized as endangered on the IUCN Red List, freshwater stingray numbers are plummeting across their range from rivers in eastern India. Not surprising to Borneo due to declining habitat quality and overexploitation. Yeah, it's not surprising over in Indonesia either. They spend their entire lives in fresh water in contrast to marine fish, or those that migrate between fresh and saltwater environments, like the diadromeus salmon, or like the beluga sturgeon, huso huso. That's the name. Which can reportedly attain a weight in excess of 1,500 kilograms or 3,500 pounds. Woo! Okay. Yeah, he is a big one. Okay, let's keep going. So the researchers fitted the ray with an acoustic tag that will enable them to track its movements among the rich assortment of underwater habitats in this area: deep pools, flowing channels, flooded forests, sandbars, and rocky outcrops. By identifying important stingray hangouts, the team will be able to work with communities and authorities to establish any necessary additional protections for the species. In response to the record breaking discovery, Paum Sotha, Director General of Cambodia's Fisheries Administration, said the country has a special opportunity to protect the species and its core habitat. He added that efforts will be made to establish a conservation action plan for the species and to boost safeguards for the Mekong, its wildlife, and the communities that rely on its fisheries. According to Hogan, finding such a colossal specimen is momentous at a time when most giant freshwater fish species are staring extinction in the face. In 2020, the Chinese paddlefish, Cephalus gladius, long a contender for the world's largest freshwater fish, was officially declared extinct. Extinct. Wonder why. And recent studies indicate that populations of giant freshwater species have plummeted by almost 90%. I think it depends on where you are, but there's been a lot of habitat degradation, especially in like rivers to rid of like certain sediments. And the problem is when you do that in specific areas of the world, that especially for like diadromia species of fish, but even native freshwater fish, it ruins. You just destroyed their it destroys their spawning grounds. So yeah, that's a problem. Over the past 40 years. Yeah, it definitely has intensified, but it was already happening in certain regions like back in the late 1800s and slightly beforehand. But it's also a rare sign of hope, Hogan said. In a river system contending with intense development pressure, it is a signal to us to protect our rivers and lakes. Large fish are bellwethers of the. Okay, it's just being repetitive. Oh, they're measuring him. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll give everyone a minute for those that have any questions about prehistoric or current animals and put it in the chat or any funny comments. Okay. Well, thanks for joining. And for prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Did I already say something earlier? I might have said Happy International Temnodontosaurus Day. So the giant ichthyosaur from the Jurassic of England. And we're streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.